Rams fans, it is time to talk about the trenches. The defensive line is the heartbeat of this team, but lately there has been a lingering concern regarding a specific roster spot that has everyone questioning the front office's strategy. We are looking at a situation that demands immediate attention and a serious reality check as we head into the new season. Something feels off, and the performance metrics simply do not lie. Before we dive into the deep analysis of this critical personnel issue, I want to know where my fellow Rams supporters are tuning in from. Please drop your name, your city, and your country in the comments section below. Let us keep it locked, because we are starting right now. Ty Hamilton is the center of this conversation, and frankly, the situation surrounding his trajectory with the Los Angeles Rams has become a major talking point for anyone paying attention to our defensive depth. After the organization made the bold and perhaps questionable decision to trade up in the 2025 NFL Draft to acquire him from Ohio State, expectations were sky high. We were told he was the plug-and-play solution for our run defense, a guy who could anchor the middle of the field and provide that necessary grit after Aaron Donald's retirement. Instead, what we witnessed on the field during his rookie season was a statistical nightmare that has left many fans wondering if the front office made a massive miscalculation. Evaluating a player who struggles to find his footing is never easy, but when you look at the raw data, the reality is difficult to ignore. Among 146 defensive linemen who saw significant snaps last year, Hamilton finished near the bottom of almost every meaningful metric. With an overall defensive grade of 32.7, he was statistically one of the least effective players at his position in the entire league. This was not just a case of rookie nerves or a slow adjustment period, it was a total breakdown in fundamental execution. He was brought in specifically to stuff the run, yet he posted a dismal run defense grade of 31.8, ranking 138th among his peers. The transition from college to the professional level is brutal, but for a player drafted to bring immediate impact, this level of production is simply not good enough to justify the draft capital surrendered to get him. As we analyze his tape, it is clear that his smaller frame led to significant struggles at the point of attack, where he was consistently pushed around by opposing offensive linemen. The disappointment is palpable among the coaching staff, and it is reflected in his limited rotational role. This was meant to be the piece that solidified our defensive aggregate strategy, but instead, it became a glaring vulnerability. Now, as he enters his second year, the pressure is mounting, and the margin for error has essentially evaporated. We have to look at the cold, hard facts to understand how we arrived at this pivotal crossroads for his career. When we consider the context of this move, it is impossible to ignore the draft capital spent. Trading away a future fourth-round pick to move up for a player who struggled to see the field as more than a depth piece is the kind of front office decision that stays under the microscope. The 2025 season was a trial by fire, and the returns were undeniably poor. We saw him attempt to adapt to a rotational role, but the consistency just was not there. The defense as a whole has been forced to adapt to a Moneyball approach in the post-Donald era, looking for production in the aggregate, but every piece is supposed to serve a specific purpose. Unfortunately, the tape suggests that the purpose for this young defender remains undefined and unfulfilled. Looking at his pass rushing ability, or the lack thereof, he failed to provide any consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks, recording only 7 pressures throughout the entire campaign. That is a staggering statistic for a defensive lineman expected to contribute to a pass rush rotation. Then, we look at the run defense, which was supposed to be his bread and butter. The difference in production when veterans like Poona Ford were on the field versus when they were absent was night and day. The drop-off was so severe that it highlighted the physical limitations we were seeing on the screen. It was not just about missed assignments, it was about being physically outmatched in the trenches. This is the NFL, and there are no shortcuts when you are lining up against professional blockers who do this for a living. The addition of Tim Keenan III and the return of Laryl Murchison only add to the fire. The front office is clearly hedging their bets, bringing in more bodies to compete for that same interior role. For the fans, this creates a climate of uncertainty. We want to see our draft picks succeed, but we also demand production that matches the effort put into acquiring them. The internal climate must be tense, as Hamilton realizes that his roster spot is anything but secure. The development arc has stalled, and the coaching staff is likely looking for a much higher return on investment if they are going to keep him on the active roster come September. The strategic analysis of this situation reveals a harsh reality. In the modern NFL, size and leverage are non-negotiable for an interior defensive lineman. When you watch the tape from the Week 16 matchup against the Seahawks, it is difficult to watch the play where Kenneth Walker broke away for a 55-yard touchdown. It was a direct consequence of a failure at the point of attack. That play stands as a symbol of the struggle. He was moved, the gap opened, and the result was a catastrophic defensive breakdown. This is not just a player needing more time to develop, it is a player who must fundamentally change how he engages with blockers if he wants to survive in this league. From a tactical perspective, the Rams cannot afford to have a player who is consistently being pushed out of his gap on early down situations. If the coaching staff continues to prioritize effectiveness over draft status, he could easily find himself on the practice squad or looking for work elsewhere. The future for this position remains cloudy, and the upcoming training camp will be the ultimate litmus test for his professional future. He has to prove that he can anchor against double teams and hold his ground against power runs. If he cannot make that leap, the strategy of trading up to get him will go down as one of the most frustrating personnel moves in recent team history. The ceiling for a player with his profile is usually limited, but he hasn't even approached that floor yet. Every snap he takes in the preseason will be monitored with a fine-tooth comb by the scouts, and they will be looking for signs of improvement in his hand placement, his pad level, and his lateral quickness. Without these improvements, he will remain a liability. The pressure on this young man is reaching a boiling point. The media is already questioning whether the organization made a mistake, and the fans are rightfully frustrated by the lack of returns. When you look at the risk-reward factor, the team is currently holding a high-risk asset with very little reward to show for it. If he fails to show significant growth during training camp, the decision for the front office becomes incredibly easy, even if it is difficult to admit publicly. The team has brought in reinforcements, and competition brings out the best in some players, but for others, it is a signal that their time is running out. We are talking about a player whose professional survival is now at stake. The organization cannot afford to carry players who are not contributing, especially when our defensive front is trying to replace a legend. The stakes are high, and the scrutiny from the local media will be relentless. If he wants to remain a part of this roster, he has to show that he can withstand the physical grind of an entire NFL season. There is no more room for excuses or potential. It is time for production, or the door will slam shut. Every single snap is now an audition for his career. If he can't win these battles during the summer, we know exactly what the coaching staff will do. The team has a history of making tough personnel decisions for the betterment of the collective, and this situation with him is no different. We are looking at a critical moment that will define his path forward. It is time to step up and perform, or simply move on to the next chapter. Ram it. The time for waiting is absolutely over for everyone involved in this defensive rotation today. This is a defining moment for the defensive line rotation. The reality is that the Rams cannot settle for anything less than excellence in the trenches. We have analyzed the struggles, the draft capital, and the looming pressure as we head into the 2026 season. It is clear that the path forward requires immediate improvement, and the upcoming training camp will be the ultimate indicator of what this team is going to look like. Do you think he can turn it around and secure his spot? Or is it time for the front office to move in a different direction? I want to hear your takes on this roster battle. Please leave a comment below with your thoughts, hit that like button if you enjoyed this analysis, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Ram it!